In today's video we will tell you all about our Sentinel of Radiance Guardian build. The Guardian Ascendancy can grant you access to the exclusive Sentinel of Radiance. It is a very powerful minion that casts a burning aura that deals damage based on the maximum life, in a very similar way to the Righteous Fire skill. You can have only one Sentinel at a time, which lasts around 40 seconds. You can't boost the Sentinel with support gems, but you can improve the burning aura damage via other means, such as curses that lower elemental resistances, exposure, or auras such as malevolence or aspect of the spider. You can also use elemental ailments like scorch or shock. Within this archetype, you rarely want to use only one minion. Thanks to elemental relics that provide powerful elemental auras, you can use any hit-based minion in your setup. But to make the most out of your investments into minion life, we recommend embracing the Minion Instability Keystone. As your minions reach 50% of their maximum life, they will explode, dealing a large amount of damage. The best skill to use with this keystone is Summon Raging Spirit, as one cheap unique amulet is enough to reliably trigger the explosions. This keystone, however, makes using the Animate Guardian somehow risky. The burning aura of your Sentinel covers almost the entire screen. Sentinel has a very low movement speed, so you will need to rely on a convocation spell to move him around. Summon Raging Spirits requires the least amount of additional investments to fit into the build. The Sentinel of Radiance will reduce your damage taken by 20%. You can have a lot of armor rating and block chance for both types of damage, and the time of need notable grants excellent life recovery. The aspect of Spider covers enemies in webs, which reduces their damage and movement speed. The clear speed is good and comfortable, limited mostly by the short cooldown of the convocation spell. Single target damage is decent enough for most content, but it falls off against Ubers. The additional minion setup is useful in this regard. It's one of the most affordable builds currently. The Sentinel of Radiance scales greatly with just your levels and passive skill tree, and most rare items can be cheaply crafted using the Essence of Fear or bound fossils. The build requires no unique items, but some are very useful to have. You will need a very cheap amulet to trigger explosions of your Raging Spirits, but the regular hit-based version is also very good and frees up more amulet choices. The Aminamu's Gaze Jewel is fairly expensive, but the build works just fine without it. The Phenemus's Shroud makes the aspect of the spider even stronger, and grants you a great amount of energy shield and its regeneration, which is important to freely spam your skills or use Divine Blessing. You can get one with useful corruption such as bonus levels to your socketed Raging Spirits, and link it using the Tainted Fusing. It is a necessary amulet if you want to explode your Summon Raging Spirits, as the end of the duration doesn't count towards minion instability. Try to get one with a useful corruption modifier, such as additional resistance or additional curse. If you rely on hit-based minions instead, this amulet offers unrivaled survivability during most encounters. Good resistance modifiers are useful, but you should focus only on the life regain modifier, which you can also upgrade with Fertile Catalyst. You can use the Impresence amulet if you want better uptime on your curses while mapping. The two curse variants drop from Uber Elder, so their prices are considerably higher. It might be a good option if you invest into more curses, and use Enfeeble in your trigger wand instead. The Aminamu's Gaze is the best jewel for minions that rely on damage over time. It can be quite expensive, but it's easily the best jewel you could get for this build. You will need 4 rare Ghastly Eye jewels to get the full benefit of this jewel. When socketed near the Agnostic Keystone, the Energized Armor Jewel can grant you tons of increase to your armor rating. It makes picking up nearby armor notables fairly efficient, as they will also reduce the chaos damage you take from hits, and lower the damage of incoming critical strikes. Elegant Hubris can change nearby passives to extremely efficient ones, but it won't be easy to get a proper variant, especially in the early stages. It is a bit advanced setup, but you should definitely look into it later on. You can use the Impossible Escape Jewel and your Amulet's Anointment to allocate those passives without wasting passive points. The 1% increase to your minion's life is usually much more effective than 1% of damage, but those modifiers usually have lower values. Additional gem levels do nothing for the Sentinel of Radiance but can improve your other minions. You can easily craft most of the necessary rare items using Essence of Fear or bound fossils on fractured items. Here you should focus on lots of increases for minion damage, which you can easily acquire with Essence of Fear on a wand with Fractured Hybrid modifier. Extra attack speed or gem levels can be used to boost your summon Raging Spirits. Use the Trigger modifier to reliably cast your curses and apply fire exposure. You can use the Essence of Fear on a rare shield to get the bonuses to your minion life. The increase in minion damage is also available here. Other than that, look for defensive bonuses such as maximum life, resistance, chance to block, gain life on block, or spell suppression. The Helm slot is important to obtain mana reservation efficiency, which you can get through Essence of Loathing and Eldritch Implicit. Other than that, look for maximum life, resistance, life regeneration, and crafted physical damage taken as a fire damage modifier. It is a good target to craft the aspect of the spider. You can also aim for additional levels for all minions if you wish to boost the Raging Spirits. You can use a rare armor with tons of defensive bonuses. It can also boost your aura effect or mana reservation efficiency. It is a good option if you lack resistance on your other pieces. Remember to use an armor and energy shield base to have an easier time coloring it. Again, you can obtain the bonus for minions' life via Essence of Fear. Other than that, look for high maximum life, movement speed, resistance, or attributes. Life regeneration is also useful to have. You can use the Eldritch Implicits to drop the Scorched Ground on your enemies, which will further lower their elemental resistances, but it's not reliable. You can use the Essence of Fear to get bonuses to your minions' damage, but you can also obtain this modifier using the crafting bench, with a slightly lower value. The Eldritch Implicits can further boost the damage of your minions. The remaining bonuses should be focused on defenses and attributes. Essence of Fear proves to be useful again, as you can get minion life bonuses here. Use it on the Stygian Vice Belt, as Abyss Jewels are extremely useful for this build. Look for life, resistance, or life regeneration and lacking attributes. Flask modifiers are useful to have too. Ghastly Eye Jewels are very valuable for this build. You can get tons of bonuses to your minions' damage and life. Craft them using the Pristine Fossil, as the bound fossil is too diluted with possible modifiers. The special bone rings can roll both bonuses to minion life and their damage, so they are extremely valuable. They can also get a bit of movement speed for your Sentinel of Radiance, but it will still be very slow. It is however a quite useful modifier for your Raging Spirits. You can craft such rings with bound fossils. The large cluster jewel is quite bad for this setup, but you need it to socket 2 medium clusters. The ideal jewel would have the Feasting Fiends and Call to the Slaughter, which uses the least amount of your passive points. You can also use a suboptimal version with the extra effect of small passives, and fill them with additional resistances or attributes. Medium cluster jewels have a great value on modifiers that boost your minions' life, which makes them very good for this setup. The Blessed Rebirth adds a 4-second delay for the Raging Spirit's instability, but with the consistent damage from other minions, it's not noticeable. You can use the Taste of Hate Flask to further reduce the physical damage you take from incoming hits. By lowering the pure physical aspect of the hit, you make the reduction from your armor even more effective. For your other magic flasks we recommend using a Life Flask with bleeding removal, Quicksilver with reduced effect of curses on you, Granite Flask with armor rating bonus, and a Quartz Flask with a portion of taken damage leached as life, or reduced mana costs of skills if you have troubles casting the Divine Blessing. You gain this skill by allocating the Radiant Crusade notable in the Guardian Ascendancy. It summons the Sentinel of Radiance that casts the Burning Aura, which is the main focus of this build. You can use any minion setup you prefer, but we recommend the Summon Raging Spirits. You can build around their hits boosted by auras from elemental relics, or minion instability keystone, as you invest into minion life anyway. This exemplary setup uses the Combustion and Feeding Frenzy supports to further boost your Sentinel of Radiance. You shouldn't invest in cast speed, so the Unleash or Spell Echo is necessary to summon all minions possible. The minion damage support lowers the life of your minions, so it shouldn't be used in a minion instability setup. This aura summons skitterbots that apply shock and chill to nearby enemies. If your minions can apply those ailments reliably, you can use a defensive aura such as Arctic Armor, or automate Curse with Blasphemy. The Purity of Elements grants plenty of elemental resistances to you and your minions, but more importantly, grants immunity to all elemental ailment effects. The Determination is a very important defensive aura that grants you a lot of armor rating and helps improve it even more. Tempest Shield grants plenty of chances to block spell damage. It requires hefty investments into mana reservation efficiency, so you can skip this aura at first. The aspect of the spider can be obtained by crafting it into a piece of gear using the Phenumus beast at the altar in the menagerie. It slows and weakens nearby enemies. Be careful, as it can be affected by support gems, which often leads to increased mana reservation costs. You should link your most demanding auras with the Enlightened support. Unfortunately, it specifies that it works only on the skill gems, so it won't affect the reservation of the aspect of the spider. Malevolence is an offensive aura that improves the damage over time of your minions. It also improves the skill effect duration, so make sure it is active before you summon the Sentinel. The Divine Blessing changes your aura into a temporary buff, which you have to recast from time to time using your energy shield. You can also use the Guardian's Blessing support if your minion can survive that. Thanks to the Spiritual Command Notable, you will have lots of attack speed, which makes the shield charge the best movement skill to use in this build. The faster attack support makes the shield charge even better. You can also use the enhanced support, but it can be quite hard to find a socket for that. The Animate Guardian creates a minion that wears the provided items. Be careful when combining it with Minion Instability Keystone, as it essentially halves his maximum life. You can find a list of useful setups in our Animate Guardian guide linked in the video description. Thanks to the Raise Spectre spell, you can turn any monster into your ally. We recommend using the Carnage Chieftains found in Act 2 to generate frenzy charges for your minions. Use those two supports to further improve the survivability of your utility minions. You can link the Feeding Frenzy support here, but the uptime can be quite low. This curse lowers the fire resistance of affected foes and improves the chances to inflict Ignite, which is quite useful for the purpose of the combustion support. The Elemental Weakness is another useful curse. It lowers all elemental resistances of your enemies, albeit for a bit lower value. You can also use the Enfeeble to lower the damage your enemies deal. Wave of Conviction is used to apply fire exposure on your enemies, which lowers their fire resistance. You should socket those 3 spells in a wand with a trigger modifier, or use the Arcanist brand otherwise. The Convocation summons all your minions to your location and grants them life regeneration. It is a necessary tool to move around the Sentinel of Radiance. The Infernal Cry covers all nearby enemies in Ash, increasing the fire damage dealt to them, and slowing their movement speed. It also taunts enemies, so use it with caution. The rewards offered by bandits are not useful for the minion build, so you should kill all bandit lords to be rewarded with 2 bonus passive tree skill points by Aramir. For your major Pantheon power, we recommend using the Soul of Arakali, which helps you mitigate the damage coming from overtime effects such as bleeding, burning ground, or poison. The minor Pantheon choice is more flexible, but we suggest the Soul of Shikari to further reduce the damage coming from poisons. You can start using the Raging Spirits very early on. After the first labyrinth, you can pick up the Sentinel of Radiance, which will trivialize the campaign from that point on, making it a very fast and pleasant experience. Try to rush for the minion masteries that grant you reduced convocation cooldown and area of effect for your minions to make it even better. The passive tree focuses on all things related to boosting your minions and improving your survivability. You will also find useful aura notables there. The Eldritch Battery moves your energy shield to cover your mana instead. You can achieve a pretty significant amount of energy shield without any extra investments, So you can also consider skipping the Divine Blessing setup and keeping the Energy Shield to protect your life. You can also use the Mind over Matter keystone to have a bit of both worlds, but it can be deceptive sometimes. The elemental relics from the Guardian Ascendancy can be used to boost your minions a bit. Even in a minion instability setup, it grants decent benefits. The other options are rather bad. The Radiant Faith has low value without investing in mana, and links are clunky to use. The Elegant Hubris Jewel socketed near the Iron Will keystone can convert many notables into powerful minion notables, which you can efficiently pick up using the Impossible Escape Jewel. Finding a good variant can be quite hard, and there is no guarantee such ones will even exist on the market. That concludes today's video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and consider leaving a like or subscribe. Have a good day, and see you next time.